I did the masterclass and it was successful, and I introduced the audio program in that masterclass, and I had a few sales, and I thought it was amazing. So the next month, no sales. I did another masterclass, no sales. So it's kind of like, what's happening?
Anytime I take a look at any funnel and it's not converting as well as we'd like to see, there's usually the first three things that go to our.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. We are back with our famous, because it's so famous, we've done like 5 episodes, our world-renowned coaching segment. We have an amazing guest today. We're super excited to dive into her business. Her name is Francesca Rea. She's a senior wealth advisor and prosperity coach. And we're going to talk about her course that has a private podcast feed. And we're going to talk a little bit about her marketing and positioning. And maybe we could get more people to buy it. Right, Nora? That's what we're going to do today.
That's the goal.
So welcome, Francesca. We're super excited you're here. Give us a little background about this business of yours, and so people can see how a private podcast fits in.
Thank you so very much for having me. I am super excited. I probably would shed a little tear or two as well, because it's been a lifelong dream. So I have been a wealth advisor for 20 years. And in 2020, I went through a divorce, a separation, I should say. And I started this journey of hiring coaches to help me get through this whole experience. And as I was going through my process, I realized that even going through the separation process, at least here in Canada, I'm sure the same in the US, it was a very challenging experience with everything. And I have the financial background. I couldn't imagine women without a financial background having ease through this process as well. And so it just hit me that women really need to learn more about money. So as I started, exploring that, I ran into Andrea Crowder on her
Nice.
Instagram. And she launched this program called Amore Money. And I was like, well, that's really interesting. So I bought her program. I listened through it entirety. I participated in Voxer. Like, it was quite an experience for me. And so it just got me thinking about, what do I want to do and how am I going to get my message out? How am I going to educate these women? And I thought of doing, the regular video program course online. And I was just like, this seems like so much work. And I don't have the time. I'm a busy mom, 2 teenagers and busy practice. And then it just hit me one day. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Andrea used this program to launch her Amore Money. And I, asked her what it was. And she's like, Hello Audio. And I looked more into it. I was like, well, that seems really easy. So then the idea of what my program was going to be came quite easily, quickly. I had 6 people that I wanted to have on my, I call it podcast, paid program. And they all said yes. I interviewed them all. And then I had my piece at the end of it. I have a bonus episode. I was like over the moon thrilled that this just came together so easily, so quickly. Great messages, great coaches. And then I launched it in a masterclass because I thought I could just send it out to the world on Instagram. And the person I was working with was like, yeah, no, you need to do a masterclass. I was like, oh, what's that? Like, I'm a financial wealth advisor. I'm not a, whatever it is that I have to be. So I did the masterclass and it was successful. And I introduced the audio program in that masterclass, and I had a few sales and I thought it was amazing. So the next month I did another masterclass, no sales. I did another masterclass, no sales. So it's kind of like, what's happening? It's a paid program. And so I went through a lot of, what do I need to do? I joined a Q&A that you guys had. I wasn't quite getting, what I was looking for. I felt I needed a one-on-one. And I dropped this for quite some time. And then I picked it back up in the summer of 2024, relaunched it through Instagram, relaunched it through live, whatever it was I was trying to do. I got another sale. I was so excited. And then I dropped it again. So when I saw your email come out to do this one-on-one, I was like, yes, in a heartbeat. Like, I need to figure this out because I just feel it's such a beautiful program, a beautiful message. I want to get it out there.
Awesome. Okay. I'm ready to dive in.
I love this. I think this is a great story. And I think I didn't realize it was an audio only course. So that's also interesting. And I think good from our perspective on coaching. Like, how do we talk about that? And Andrea is one of the first people. We definitely had her on the show twice now, who's really gone all in on audio as a form of content delivery. And, her success is definitely showing that it is a super valuable thing. And so thinking about how to communicate that to your audience, as it relates to what it is and how it works and that kind of thing. So I'm excited about that too. And I can tell Nora is excited because here's what I love too. I love you have sales. And this happens in our space where people have a couple sales and they're like, oh, I didn't hit whatever my goal was, or maybe I'm not as fancy as X person like Andrea, right? Oh, she just makes it look so easy as she does. But then they set it down and they're like, oh, maybe it's the wrong content or whatever. But like you have something. And so like, and it has worked in some capacity with some people. So now what does it look like to convert more people, to get more leads? Because I'm sure Nora might have questions about like how many people are seeing this offer, that kind of thing. So this is going to be a good episode because I do have a feeling there's a lot of people listening that have experienced this before. And this guidance should be pretty helpful. Cool. Nora's ready.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right. Actually, let's start with that first question. I'm curious, just numbers wise, how many people have seen this offer? And you could, even if you have examples of those different master classes, how many people were there versus how many people converted. And if you have an average percentage of people that convert to purchase this product.
I did not get the numbers down. I would say I probably did 6 master classes and I had anywhere from 20 to 40 people per master class. So when I was doing
On live?
yeah, Zoom live,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And so in that time frame, I sold 4 of the programs. So
So we're
whatever
looking,
that
yeah.
ratio works out to be.
Yeah, we could average like 30 times 6.
Yeah. So 180. So and you said 4 out of 180.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're like at 2%, which is pretty common for cold traffic, I would say. People who don't really know you, people who may not have a high awareness level. So I would say that's not uncommon. I'd like to see that number go up to, maybe 10% by the end of a master class. I mean, I'd like to see it even go up more. Usually if we can crush the master class of whatever that vehicle is, doesn't have to be a master class, but whatever that thing is that the content in there is ultimately designed to speak to their address underlying fears, build up the beliefs or shift false beliefs that they might have in order for them to be most likely to buy, and then really just address the needs that they think they have, right? Not the needs we think they have, but the needs that they think they have in their own words. And so I'd like to see that up near 10% if possible, but 2% is not something that I'm shocked by,
Okay.
especially if you're dealing with cold traffic.
You make me feel better. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And so anytime I take a look at any funnel and it's not converting as well as we'd like to see, there's usually the first 3 things I go to are how many people are really seeing it, because it could just be that we have to get it in front of more people, right? And if we're looking at this and if you were to tell me, I had less than 50 people see this offer, I'd be like, all right, we need to get in front of more people, right? And it's always everyone's like, how many people? It's statistically significant. If you're out there selling, to corporations and there's 20 corporations that need your help, I would at least want you to get in front of, I don't know, 2 or 3 of them and
Yeah.
see how that goes, right? So
Right.
it's statistically significant. And so I look at that and then I look at, okay, the other 2 things I look at are messaging and positioning. So normally it's something about the messaging that isn't speaking to those needs, beliefs, and underlying fears. And it's not shifting them to the point for the consumer to be most likely to purchase. And so sometimes it's just a messaging thing. And then I look at pricing. So I look at the offer itself, right? And sometimes it's the perceived value of the offer itself compared to what the price is. Now, on average, how I like to architect my marketing offers is I like the perceived value to be 3 to 5. Sometimes if it's a really amazing offer, 3 to 10x what I'm actually charging, right? So the value of it, people are thinking I would pay 3 to 10 times, 3 to 5 times is normally the average. And then that makes it a no-brainer offer. Now, you can definitely do 2x or things. I'm talking about like, how do I make this thing a no-brainer offer? It's the perceived value. And so let's talk a little bit about perceived value and what that looks like, because then we'll get into all the nitty-gritty, but just to kind of set the stage. Because a lot of people are thinking, "Oh, I need a discount in order to bring that,
Mm.
down." It's not about reducing the price necessarily, although that could be part of it if people are thinking that's too high for what I think I'm getting out of it. But it's also, are we really crystal clear and are we communicating? This is kind of where messaging overlaps a bit. What is the primary currency? What I mean by this, and we talk a lot about these on coaching calls, is the currency exchange, right? People are giving you cash, whether they're US dollars or in this case, Canadian dollars, and you're giving them something in exchange. And what I like to think of that something is a currency. You're increasing or decreasing something in their life or in their business. And sometimes we can quantify it, sometimes we can't. But we can still speak very clearly to what they're going to get out of it in those terms so that it's really crystal clear what this product, what this experience, what this offer is going to increase and decrease in their life. So, primary currency is a big deal. How much do I value that primary currency? Because you could say, for example, a SaaS company, we care about our customer satisfaction, we care about our customer service, right? We care about churn. If you have a membership, you care about churn, you care about retention. So the primary currency needs to match what they care about the most and what they value the most, right? Just because it's a primary currency doesn't mean they value it.
Right.
And then I look at the other factors of an offer that increase perceived value, and that's ease and convenience. Audio is amazing for ease and convenience because I don't have to log in anything. This
Yeah,
is super easy. I just have to do 2 clicks and I can take this thing with me and listen to it anytime, anywhere. So that's a
absolutely.
benefit of doing this on audio and audio only. So that's fantastic. Time, that could be time to value. So how much work do I have to put into this in order to get the value out of it, right? So if you're going to tell me I need to slog through 30 hours of content, I'm not going to see that as valuable potentially as an offer that reduces my time to value or saves me time in getting there.
Mm.
So sometimes it's like the thing you're selling is a shortcut to getting something done, and that's a time saver. Either way, we value our time, and so both of those things factor into the offer, the perceived value of an offer. We talked about ease and convenience, and there's also kind of this pain in the butt tax that people add to it if they feel like it's a pain. So it goes both ways. Like ease and convenience are great. And if it felt like, I know it's not the 30 hours, but if it was, I've seen people try to sell like an ebook that's 300 pages. And I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus. I'm not gonna, like, that's a lot of work. And now my perceived value, I've added like almost like a pain in the butt tax to that side of the ledger. And I'm thinking that's like it decreased the value for me because it's more work on my side. So all of these things really factor into the perceived value. And so we want to make sure that the value of our offer, and we're clearly communicating the value of our offer. So when they see the price tag, they're not thinking, oh, that is not what I was expecting at all in a bad way. They're thinking, oh, that was not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting it to be a lot more expensive. That's a no brainer. So we want people to feel that way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of those are the things I'm looking at as we go into like fix a funnel or optimize a marketing campaign, right? Especially when we're increasing conversions. And so when I'm starting to look at this, I'm looking at the Rise Up, Live Up Money program,
Yep.
right? And okay, so a couple things I've got questions on. It right now I can see the link when I get to your homepage. There's a link in the upper right-hand corner that says money program, subscribe here. And I'm assuming in terms of getting people in, because you're also selling this during a masterclass, are you running ads to that
Yep.
masterclass to get people on?
Yep.
I'm assuming
Yep.
social media you're
Yep.
using to get people, any
Mhm.
other traffic sources you're using to grab people's attention?
So YouTube, then there is Instagram, LinkedIn, and we were using clips of the audio program as a way to draw people in. I have clips for each and every person that I've interviewed. Like I even got it on my YouTube. You can see how we've done it. And I really hadn't increased the traffic on YouTube, but I didn't realize my social media team had it on YouTube, which I got a few views I was quite excited about. So that's something I was going to be working on this year is increase the YouTube traffic. So I did a promotion for Black Friday
Okay.
with the
So your email list.
email list, which I'm working on. I haven't been a great email list person, but soon to be this year. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. No, that's great. I think all great things. So you're diversifying your traffic sources. We're seeing which one seems to hit. And inevitably, if you're listening to this, not everyone has the bandwidth or a team to have multiple traffic sources, which is fine. The goal is to start with the one you think is going to be the most effective and test it. And then as that is stable and you feel like you have capacity and bandwidth, you either add it. If it's not working, then switch. I will say, don't give it a little bit of space and time. We know if it doesn't work within a week, that means nothing. Because I mean, if you do it during a week where the world is literally on fire, that probably doesn't necessarily mean anything to your offer. It just means we didn't have attention for that
Yeah.
this week because there was other things going on. So it sounds like the good news, you've had some longevity, you've had some good exposure to this. And so what I'd like to talk a little bit about based on what I'm seeing is the messaging specifically and really the primary currency that your ideal consumer, that the ideal person buying this, what they're looking for in their own words. If you could help us and help the audience here, our listeners, understand what your target buyer really ultimately is looking for.
Well, this is an interesting question. I'm still working through. Definitely ease because they are like you, me, and all other women that are working. Finances is number 5 on their priority list. Everyone else is above that. Family, work, household, all that lovely stuff. So I'm really passionate about women learning more. And so that's why I brought the guest speakers on because they're all coaches. They've all had their own money stories and they're bits and pieces of things that I've learned along the way, like the stories we tell ourselves, how we sabotage ourselves. I have a lady talks about intuition. So it's more like an educational forefront. And then for me, I built on every episode was a different step. So like work through this episode module, it's sifting through goals. Like that's the first module. The second one is more like cash flow. Another one is talking about building your financial house and what are the different areas, walls, foundation, roof that you need to build that foundational house. And it's more just to bring awareness to what women are currently not looking at and maybe what they should be looking at. So it's a combination of exercise and doing the work and listening and hopefully to re-listen. I think that's another key is that you can read a book and put it down and you forgot pretty much everything that was in there, where I feel repetition is very key. And that's why I like the audio program, right? Because it's something I can just go, oh, I like that message, rewind. Oh, I want to go back to that episode. It's really cool. I'd love to hear it more. So I think that's why I love the audio.
This is where the disconnect is, though. And here's why. Because I heard you say about what could be 5 different primary currencies here. And so I look at I'll say this. I'm very familiar with this specific audience because I've done a ton of copywriting in this space. And so I'm being very cautious not to use words that I've written in copy, but I've used all of these angles in different copywriting. And that's what I mean when I say all 5 of these could be different primary currencies. So, for example, we have females, women that their main concern or their primary need, their perceived need is they need to get their cash flow under control. Right. And that's mainly so they're not coming to you necessarily thinking, I need to be more educated on financial concepts or I'm looking for more financial education. Normally, that's not the words that they're using in the position where they're at. It's normally something like, I need to get my cash flow under control. Or another thing you said, I've been neglecting my finances and I know it. And so I feel like I could be doing better. I could probably be building more wealth, but I know that I'm not paying enough attention because I got all this other stuff going on. And so for that avatar, for that person, that primary currency is I know I've neglected my finances. How do I step back into it in a way that's easy and doable for my lifestyle? Right.
Yeah.
So that's a different angle. Right. But notice I'm getting really specific because
Mhm.
that's when you hear that, you lean in and you're like, yep, that's what I need. Versus if I were to say that same person, here's some financial education, they'd be like, it's not what I need. That's
Yeah.
not what I need at all, right? And even the words like in the tagline, you have an audio money program about financial empowerment for women, and a lot of times because I've seen this in copy, financial empowerment, even that word, they're like, but that's not what I need. I don't
Mm,
feel like I don't need financial empowerment. I need to get my cash flow under control, or I'm sabotaging myself right? I know I'm sabotaging myself with money because I've got money crap from my past and I'm aware of it. Now, there's another audience that has money crap from their past and is completely unaware that that's what's happening. And they have no idea that they're self sabotaging themselves. Different angle for them. But I
Mm,
can't start the conversation with these people using financial empowerment or financial education because that's not what they think they need in their own words. Even the goal one, that was the other one I had listed here when you were talking, is like, I don't know where I want to spend my money. Like, what am I saving for? What is my next goal? Is it the vacation house? Is it, college? Like the lack of goal setting, which kind of relates back to the, I've neglected my finances. But that's where there's a disconnect right now in your messaging is the primary currency isn't clear. And the
mhm.
words like education or financial empowerment isn't hitting the need that your ideal audience or your ideal buyer really thinks they have.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm not saying they don't need all your content is amazing and they need all those things. Yes, but that's not meeting them where they're at in that moment.
right. Got it.
I'm not the pro like Nora, so she has this whole like framework and process for doing this. Another thing I want to point out, like a way to think about this too, is like a lot of people, what we're seeing, this is a trend in the market. That's what I should have said. A trend that we're seeing happening right now is Nora and I have been in this space for a while, the digital education courses, that kind of thing. We're seeing a lot of really focused results that's what's selling. And 5, 6, 7 years ago, the like get your money education all in one spot. Cool, because it was like new. Like it was new that we could access people in this way. I think that's part of it. There's other maybe reasons why. But I just wanted to point out that the more focused we get, the more that someone's like, this is the exact problem that I need solved right now. And whether that means the program is bigger or smaller or, whatever, that's not really where I'm going. I'm just going with something very explicit. And what I love about money coach and like health coaching, this is such a popular, not a niche, right? And like for better or worse, some people are like, oh, I can never compete. But why did Andrea's course sell well? It's such a different perspective that women were looking for. And it's like, oh, I knew exactly. And it's not all the benefits and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this investment program. Absolutely not. It's purely emotional and mindset and be like, I don't need these men on the internet telling me how to spend my money, right? Like it's such a like male dominated space. And so the women flock to that, right? And so I'm just bringing that up because it's like hers actually feels pretty general, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
but it's so general because it's a mindset shift. And I haven't seen it because I know exactly the program you're talking about. I haven't seen anyone talk about it like this, right? So think about your spin on things and think about how to make it very specific and like whatever. Maybe there's something you love working with your clients on and it's getting out of debt, or it's, I know that wasn't brought up, but that's a great example, right? Or establishing their first goal, savings goal, and they hit it. Like what is like something that you just love? And I
Mhm.
would focus your energy on creating that. The bigger program might be coming in the future is another way to look at it. I think Nora's done a lot of consulting work and building of like credential, like big programs with big frameworks and stuff. That could also be something. But I think what you need is to get people into your world and solve a problem for them. And there's enough out there for us around money, as you know. And I think you kind of wanted to solve all of them.
Of
But
course, that's what I do.
of course, right? And so I think start thinking about it from that perspective. I think that's going to also, as Nora is saying, is going to impact your sales. Like what is the thing you're helping them do? Because
Yeah.
the money stuff, there are kind of clear outcomes that you could hit the savings goal. You could start investing $20 a month. You could like, there's so many like very tangible things. And Andrea's is very intangible. Like, well, no, she provides it in the program, but the way she talks about it and the way the messaging's presented is in this very like touchy feely Andrea way, which all her content is, which is, the audience she's built. So that's a whole other thing to talk about too, is she's built an audience of women that think a certain way, like connect with her, like have been looking for her, but they didn't even know they were looking for her. Right. And so, over time, as you build this business, you will have that online presence yourself. But I like to point that out so people see like, oh yeah, that's why, this model worked for Andrea, or this model worked for Ramit Sethi is another person that I've been following his stuff. He just released the couples money for couples stuff. As you look at these people who are doing really great, what can we pull from them? That's, success leaves clues. What can we pull from them? And then like, how does that fit into where you are right now in this business?
Yeah, I think I have an idea.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think the other thing too is like Andrea has a built-in audience. So when she puts an offer out there,
That's not her first course. Yeah.
correct.
Oh,
Totally.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she can lead. But when, I would say her messaging, which is you can have whatever the heck you want, is usually like the underlying kind of message. It's like people are like, yes, I can. Right. And it's like but that speaks to a very specific like currency that gives me the freedom and the confidence and the courage to go after whatever I want. So if I looked at my little currency exchange, that messaging is really very specific. It feels like it's general, but it's not, because it's specifically related to goals, which is something you just brought up. But it's like, you're right. And then you're like, wait, crap, what do I want? And then she speaks to like why you're confused because everyone's telling you what to want. And now we're going to tap into your intuition to figure out what you actually want. And I don't own any of her products, right? So like it's just from her messaging. It's so specific and speaks to that person where they're at, and they lean in. You're like, that's what I need. And and Lindsay, great point in terms of that. This is a very crowded market. This is like, I have probably done presentations for hundreds of financial coaches over the course of my career, but everyone does it differently, and they specialize in different. They have different angles, and they have different niches, or who they serve is a little bit different, and their approach is a little bit different. And so, and there's space for everybody. And I think that's where your messaging has an opportunity to really speak to your values and your approach and your viewpoint of money in a way that will resonate with a woman that's sitting on the other side, that is literally up at night thinking about this, talking to their partner or their best friend about, like, what is that thing, what is that conversation they're having with themselves, with their significant other, with their best friend. Like, those are the messages I want to be able to tap into and meet them where they're at. Yeah, we know they need more stuff, sure, but we've got to hit a known need that they already know. And in order for the conversion to happen, it's got to hit a known need. And we can't start with something that they already don't believe they need, because this is where we have launch content. Some of it's effective and some of it isn't. You see webinars, you see masterclasses, you see all this crap, challenges, but all that content is designed to build these beliefs that are necessary in order for them to purchase whatever that thing is. Like, you're not going to sell a funnel building course unless you believe that you need a funnel or whatever that might be, so it's like all of that content is built. And so when I look at the messaging here, it feels yes, definitely needs more of you infused in this, because I feel like there's a lot of, especially today, like a lot of value fatigue. There's a lot of messaging. It's harder to discern like advertising and what's a good offer and what's not. It's just a lot more difficult, especially for women, because we are bombarded not only with life, but also with all of these, offers and messaging. And there's a lot of coaches and things out there that are, you see every day, but also just to really speak to the specificity of what is it that they really think they need right now. You can take them other places, but let's join the conversation with what they think they need, and then take them, to where ultimately they need to go. But they don't. Right now, the way it's positioned is more about I'm glad that you're passionate about it, otherwise you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, but your audience isn't necessarily going like financial education. Like, that's typically right. They're thinking like, I really need help with this thing. And I really need someone I can trust and count on, because a lot of these topics are filled with, as I'm sure you're aware, right? Like shame. There's a lot of emotional crap tied to this. There's a lot of vulnerability stuff. And so they're not going to trust just anyone with some of this content that they're going to consume.
Right. Whew. Yes.
I think that'll be a big help. And then I think once you're able to, I think the messaging will really tie into this. And then I look at the price point. The price point is $588. Is that true?
Right.
Where did
Yes.
the page go? There it is. Okay, so it's Canadian. I'm not going to do the conversions because my brain
a lot
is
less.
not there. It's a lot less.
Just
Yes,
know that.
I bought a trumpet for my son using Canadian dollars, and I was super proud. I was like, yeah, that's amazing.
Wow. That
Yes,
sounds
I was
real.
really excited. Yeah, it technically, yes, although the shipping wasn't, but that's okay. So
See,
yeah,
audio, there's no shipping costs,
There you
right?
that's
go.
true. No shipping
Another
costs.
plus.
In terms of your audience, are most of them in the US or most of them in Canada?
Mm,
Well, just being that I'm an advisor in Canada only, that is the main
I
Where
could
you
see
really
because like
want.
legally and like,
yeah,
yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
makes sense.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is more financial education and financial
Right.
literacy rather
Hmm.
than buy this investment in this product and
Yeah.
this.
Totally.
Yeah, there are. I just realized there is some of that in there, like our RSP versus the 401ks. I mean, they're similar, but I don't bring in the US equivalents, so it is more geared to Canadian audience.
That makes sense. I mean, eventually, if you did expand, it's easy for you to have a partnership or referral like network where you
Yes,
can just refer people to
even
like a
my own
network
company, I
of.
can do that right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
that works. I think with the dollar amount too, as long as people can look at the benefit of it, which I think that's where the primary currency is the disconnect now, is because if you were able to solve someone's cash flow control, like getting their cash flow under control, I think you call it chaos.
Cash flow chaos.
Uh,
Call 'em your cash flow chaos.
yeah. So if you were able to calm someone's cash flow chaos, that has a very specific value, right?
Mm.
And if they believe that consuming that content result like that, now we're able to be like, oh God, the peace of
And they
mind
know they have a
for
cash flow
that.
problem. Yeah.
And they know that, yes, they know that that's an issue. Even, I mean, other things too, like they're sabotaging themselves. So if you're a business owner, are you sabotaging? I mean, that could be one new client, a half of a client, like depending on who your clients are or what they do for a living, like that. If they're sabotaging themselves with, whatever that is, that it's an easy way for us to anchor the price into some currency. Whereas right now, I feel like a lot of people might be looking at that price, or the folks that come to this look at that price and they're not anchoring it against the value of the problem that they want to solve, like the value of what it
Yep.
would be meaning to them to solve that problem or to find relief or, whatever that is. I think the messaging is the first place I would start and then
Yep.
testing it and then maybe looking at the price. That could be part of it too. But once you fix the messaging, I think, and really tie into the value of it, like really clearly communicate the value of the content, I think this gets easier to sell.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. The other thing too, I just from a wording standpoint, I might stay away from the word subscribe. And here's why.
Mhm.
Because one of your call to actions is subscribe today, and that almost feels like we use that word a lot when when we opt in for free stuff, like a
Mm.
newsletter, like a
Or a
podcast.
membership with recurring charges is another
Yes,
way we use
or
the word
that.
subscribe. Yeah. Which
So
I know where it comes from. It came from the podcast language. Is that where you got that from?
Well, when I
Where-
say podcast to people, they're like, "Oh, it's free." And I said, "Well, no, it's a paid
yes.
podcast." And then
Totally.
I had that in my title, and then I switched over
Mm-hmm.
to money program because I figured,
Mm-hmm.
well,
That's good.
program signifies a price.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, subscribe is a disconnect. I didn't realize that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we get this question a lot, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
in our monthly coaching calls, like, what do I call this thing? And we've seen people call it lots of different things: exclusive audio series, private audio series, audio course, audio program.
Yeah, just looking at Andrea, since she's a reference point, I think she just calls it a program. It's programs that happen to
I
be
think so.
delivered via audio. And here's why that's the best thing ever. Right. So, yes, you could totally name it an audio course, and that's fine. But also, you don't have to. If you see it as a program and there's this structure that they're going through, you happen to put it, in a private podcast form. Right. And
Yeah.
that we flip that and turn that into a value proposition. Like, this is not another video that you have to watch or log in. Like, that's how awesome this is. And they're like, cool. Like, because one of the beliefs that they're going to have is, I've bought something like this before and it didn't work. So, audio tends to offer that, or like you buy it and you never log in again. That tends to be how we speak about audio.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to add that to the value stack, as Nora's saying, this is worth 3 to 5 times because, oh gosh, I've never consumed something audio before. Maybe I'll actually do it, and oh, it's in
Yeah.
my podcast player. Maybe I'll actually finish, because that's a belief people have. Some people, not
Yeah.
everybody,
I
but
had somebody say she preferred video, and she's like, I don't even think audio is the way to go. And I'm like, but you can take it anywhere. Like, you don't have
mm,
to sit at your desk. And she's like, yeah, but I
yeah,
am already at my desk and multitasking. And I'm like, okay, well,
multitasking with video.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like
fair. I mean,
I
if
drive a lot, and so
yeah.
for me, it was like I can pop in a podcast, and I'm in my destination, an hour has passed. I was like, "Wow, Jesus, that was pretty smooth sailing listening to this," and it was amazing. That's how I listened to Andrea's program, was just
Mhm.
driving. I was like, "This is
Yeah.
awesome."
I mean, I'll say this, like, some people are gonna have their preference. As an educator myself, I know that actually some people's preferences might be a little clouded as to what they think they want versus what would actually get them a result, but that's like a conversation for something else. I know Andrea in some of her courses, she offers slides. I know she doesn't record separate videos. I think my response to something like that would be like, yes, video is great in that you can see me and I'm like doing stuff and like there's slides, but like, how many videos have you watched where that literally did nothing for your you know what I mean? And like, I think part of it would be something that you could say like, yeah, like I plan on adding that in the future or something. Or you could say like, I have worksheets and I have visuals. If that's something that is true in your program, that you have things that are tangible. Cause I think a lot of people say they have this preconceived notion that like I listen to something and I don't actually learn. And my response always to that too is, well, you can re-listen because that's how learning happens. It's actually not necessarily the way it's presented. And so, and it's not like you're trying to teach them like log into your Roth RIA account right here. And then you're going to put in like, if that's what you were doing, like, sure, that needs a video. So supporting people around that belief that they need a video. And like, when like they probably don't, just offer what you can. But I guess another thing I'll say is some people believe that about themselves and you're not going to be able to, and they may either A, not be good for the program, or B, if you start hearing that a lot, offering that and say you're an audio first, program, but like you do have videos that supplement, or you made slides for people who like to see it like that. Or if you end up growing this into coaching and you have coaching calls, those videos are going to be there. I don't know, like you can offer them, but a lot of times people say that kind of stuff and you're just like, okay.
But one of the
Like,
things I don't know, I haven't gone back to in a while, but one of the things I wanted to do was attach a PDF,
mhm,
because each of the coaches had their own PDF
sure.
to have as a download. So I think I was having issues with doing that. That was just sort of a technical thing. So that would be where I would see the connection. So as I'm
Sure.
speaking and talking, I think I even made reference to that. Like, if you're not at your desk or
Yep.
by a piece of paper, when you get back, re-listen and then go through this again. And but yeah, that was one thing I think I did have issues with.
Okay. And
Just
that's a perfect way to set it up and talk about it too. That the person who has that needs that video like or tangible thing at the moment. Re-listen when you have it in front of you. Like look at you getting it done while you're driving to work, when you're ready to do work. So the PDF thing, I think there's a couple of things. So, we often recommend people put it as a link below, and there are ways that you can do that, and that's going to depend on your tech knowledge, and level of security is another way too. Like, do you want it to be in a Google Drive? Do you want it to be in a course platform that they have to log into? You want to protect that IP and offer some level there of logging in if you want to. I personally would say no to that, but it's an option. And then so in your question, or you presented the problem that you're having issues with it, is it the link's not working, or what's the issue that you're seeing?
I'm going back a year ago, so I haven't quite
Sure.
revisited that. So I think that's why I went on the Q&As to ask the questions and to get some support. I know through your website you have a chat bot and then things
Sure.
come up. I don't learn by reading things and watching videos. I'll just tell my assistant, "Can you please figure this out?"
Sure.
And so one-on-one, "Hey, I got a quick question," kind of thing is easier for me to figure something
Sure.
out than having to read the manual. But I know just that's how the services work usually, and so we can figure that another day how that.
The host, like, you put it on Dropbox, you can put it on Google Drive, you
Yes.
can use Amazon S3 storage if you're more familiar with that. There's a lot of places you can store it, but it's got to be hosted. We don't host your file
Yep.
Correct. No, I
right
Yep.
now.
understand that. Okay.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you're just grabbing the link, and you can use pretty links. There's a lot of
Mhm.
services out there. You can use Bitly if you want a short link. There's a lot
I
of
have no
options.
idea what you're talking about, so keep going with the names. I'm like,
Okay.
"Oh,
Now I
oh,
see where your issue with it is. It needs
yeah."
to
Yeah.
be
Again,
it
it's
needs to
easy.
live somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
like your
I'm a
website.
sole proprietor. I know
Mhm.
nothing about technology. There's so much, like even your own program. I was like, "What is this?" I mean, it was so easy. I will say that it was such an easy way of starting
Yeah.
something that I was forever grateful, right? And
Yeah.
so I guess I just need somebody who has the knowledge in all of this to figure
Yeah.
out what makes
Yeah,
sense.
there's a little bit there, but it is solvable for sure. And
Okay.
yeah, basically in the show notes, you can directly link. You have to get that to be hosted somewhere.
Okay.
That's the thing. It
All
could be
right.
a Google Drive file. So that's a common one you probably know in your practice, like some
Yeah.
sort of document hosting. It can be a Google Drive file that is only copyable but not editable. The level of security there, someone possibly could share that link. So just know that. But most people with this kind of stuff, it's like, we just want to make it easy for people. And like, there's going to be weird people out there that share it and give it to their friend. But it's like, if we worry about them, we're not doing what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. So Google Drive is a super common one. And you just put the Google Drive link in the show notes.
Perfect. The only other issue I had was I had it all coming through Google Podcasts, and then that sort
Sure.
of disappeared.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
I have
also probably why the link wasn't working. I was going to ask because it was a year ago. Google's hyperlinking was not working on podcasts of all the players that you could listen on. Google was one of them. So just a
It
heads up on
worked for
there.
me, and now I
Oh,
can't get
good.
it on I can't get my own pot money
No,
program on the Spotify. That's been another issue.
Spotify is always a
Um,
fun one. Yeah.
Everybody's got Apple Play, no problem, but I
Yeah.
can't even get access to it. And I had somebody reach out again to your team, and she couldn't figure it out either. So it's another thing that we'll have to work through and
So
fix.
yeah, and I will say this for everyone listening, we treat Spotify different than every other podcast app because it treats private podcasts differently than any other podcast app. And so
As it treats general podcast,
right,
you have to
every
log in to listen
so
to something. There's
different.
nothing else you have to do that. So that's the key differentiator.
Yes, very
Mhm.
different. And so we don't by default publish private podcasts to Spotify. We let the creator of the feed decide if they're going to offer their feed on Spotify because Spotify just handles things differently. Like it's searchable. Private feeds are searchable, which means it can come up in searches. Whereas in every other platform, Apple, YouTube Music, like none of that happens. And in Spotify, you can see the show notes even if you're not able to play the content unless you have a code to unlock it, which would get if you have to subscribe it to it is an
I know, and I
individual
can't
link.
figure that out either.
I know.
But
Well,
so there's
that's why.
nuances to
Yep.
Spotify. Yeah. And
Yep.
if you have to make the choice to purposely and intentionally click the button to submit it to Spotify and offer it on Spotify, otherwise it will not show up as a choice. And then the other thing that we've seen a lot actually in support, I've seen a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks, is we have people using the universal link to distribute a podcast and they're like, well, this isn't working in Spotify. That's correct. Because Spotify requires that access code to unlock it, you have to use the unique links tied to an email address. The universal link, which is the same for everybody, won't work on Spotify. So those are the nuances that you may have run into, but they're solvable. So when you get to that point, you can definitely hit us up in support, and we can help walk through that.
Yeah. And we also, they're its own behemoth tech company and they make changes in their code. Like we're actually
They
we
do.
are in constant conversation with them where we get weird glitches happening. And sadly it tends not to be our fault. It's something like we had things where like Europe wasn't working for no reason. So like, and this is the thing with Hello Audio, and I will say that is pretty different, I would say, from like Kajabi or Thinkific or a learning platform, right? What's cool about Hello Audio is it's available in whatever podcast player you want and you sign up and it's great. And the caveat, the flip side of that is it's available in any podcast player. And guess what? They're all different and they're all different companies. Whereas if you're a user and you're logging into a Thinkific website, they're logging into Thinkific and Thinkific owns everything there. So anything that's a problem in Thinkific is probably a problem that they can fix. So we deal with all these outside players and they literally treat everything differently to the point where we sometimes, look at features and we're like, we can't even add that because it's treated so differently in every player. And so I'm just bringing that up because as someone listening who maybe has tested out Hello Audio and you're like, I don't know why it's working in this way in Apple, it's another common question we get and we try to produce content around it and talk about it in support is the listener, has preferences that they get to set on their player that is different preferences, different words all across players. So it's going to show the order differently and all the things. So Yeah, we do our best to manage that from a support perspective, which is why we're always like, please send us a message, like let us know, because we want to know, is something wrong with Spotify? Is there something going on that's bigger than what is a typical issue? And so, yeah, if you're listening to this and Spotify has been giving you or your listeners problems, to Nora's point, you don't even have to offer it. Like, yes, it's something that's a growing number of people listen to stuff there, but it also could potentially, because of the whole access code and all of that and the way it's set up, it could create some problems as well. If you have a team behind you and you can have people troubleshoot and email us, like you're like, yep, it's worth it. I want this to be available for people, 100%, like make it an option, but recognize that there might be things out of the control of that. That we do what we can to help get around that. But so yeah, like often if a listener, a subscriber is having an issue with Spotify, we recommend suggesting another player, just because it tends to not come with some of the issues, I guess. But yeah, so that's a long way. You were probably like, oh, I know I need to talk to support. It's great. We like to use this avenue to talk to people as pre-educate them before they email us if we can. But yeah,
Yes.
it's a little hairy over there at Spotify, but we're also one of the only private podcasting platforms that offers it. So, it is something that's a differentiator. And if you're willing to stick with the tech and figure it out, making it sound like no one should do it, most of the time it works. But yeah, we're happy to help you. And if it's been a while too, like we've been in conversation, there's been some development stuff and things that we've fixed on both ends. So it might be worth an email to see if there is an update or change that maybe it's impacted whether or not it was working for you originally.
Okay, definitely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Of course. Awesome. Any other questions? I know that was on your list. Anything else?
No, those are the questions. I mean, I really believe in this sort of vehicle, and if Andrea can do it, I can do it. Anybody
100%.
can do it. And it was just, I really am grateful that it was such an easy way to start getting the
Yeah.
message out, and I look forward to doing more for sure.
Yeah.
You've inspired me to recreate again.
Good. I was going to say, like, I hope we didn't make you feel like, yeah, you're not starting at zero. It's just thinking about, yeah, what you can add. And that's the beautiful thing about audio. You don't have to record any videos or make any slides or worksheets if you don't want to. You could just talk and hit
And
that
that's what
problem,
I'm
that
good at.
known need, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So now it's really just a marketing piece,
Mhm.
messaging piece for sure. And yeah, it's trying to get on the new page and a new board and recreate again.
Let's do it. Let us know how we can help in any way. We super appreciate you coming on. Thank you for
allowing me to come on. That's so
yeah, like thank
exciting.
you for your vulnerability, for bringing your offer. Nora went to town on it, and I think you got some
Sorry.
good direction. And
Keep going.
yeah, keep going, keep doing the work, man. It's important stuff you're doing. So, thank you for trusting us with that important stuff.
Thanks to you.
And yeah, keep us posted, and we'll talk later.
I
Take
will.
care.
I'll let you know when the next one comes out.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cool.
Bye.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.